Well, good morning. This is the July 25th meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board. Do you agree, Mark, that we have a quorum? We'll call the meeting to order. You've been furnished with copies of the minutes of our previous meeting on June the 27th. Are there additions or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's part of the official minutes or not, but on the cover sheet it describes Mark Stonesife for Ward 8 Councilwoman. So I think we
says Councilman.
Might want to, unless, at least on the copy that I printed out, I printed out an early one as soon as it was sent.
It's Councilman now.
Maybe that's been.
We'll get that corrected.
Okay.
I would like to just, one item in the minutes that was mentioned was that David was going to be performing. I think that was in the minutes. Mark Stonesife brought that up. I did attend the concert, and he did an excellent job.
Did he?
Thank you.
He was outstanding.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes as presented. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. David, we have the MAPS 3 budget and obligations report.
Because of the fiscal year ending and timing, as we have every year, we don't have the budget today, and we will receive that next month. But we do have the obligations report for you today, and you can see that we've got a lot going on. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those, but we'll bring you the budget next month.
Any questions about the report that's included in your packet? Mike?
I move we accept it.
It's been moved and seconded. We accept the report as presented. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It's received. David, item 4.
Item 4 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 7 to contract for landscape architectural services with Hargreaves Associates MAPS 3 Park, increase of $645,870, project M3-P006. So this contract amendment covers several things. Some of the additional design and coordination that they've had to do with the roundabout that we're putting in and with the Robinson construction. Then also site observation and services due to the extension of construction. So because of weather and various things, construction was originally supposed to end in about April, and now it's extended until September. So they've got staff still traveling here and staff on site working to review the project construction as it goes along. And then additionally, we've upped the visits that the principal landscape architect does. Instead of 1 a month, he's doing 2 a month, so twice as many visits. And then also there's additional design revisions for the lower park. So remember, this amendment is the upper park and the lower park. And working with the operator, there were substantial revisions in the buildings and the design and the hardscape, landscape, all that stuff in the lower park. So this is to compensate for all those different things. This comes with the approval from the subcommittee.
I met Mary Margaret as I was walking over today. She said that she had been out to the site all day, so I know they're here and working. Any questions for David about this? Shall we approve it? It's been moved and seconded. We approve the resolution as presented. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. Kim, we just approved the resolution for the changing the architectural fees for the park, okay?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, item 5, David.
Item 5 is recommend joint resolution approving change order number 11, MAPS 3, Scissortail Upper Park, increase of $186,340.19, project M3-P006/WC0920. So as you know, we're deeply into construction, and as construction moves along, there's various things that come up, and this is just items due to construction. And some of these items were due, again, to the South Robinson construction, the roundabout, and the road, and then there were some site modifications around Union Station also that, as we go along with construction, things come up that need to be changed and added. So this also comes with the approval from the subcommittee.
Questions for David or Kim? Shall we approve it? It's been moved and seconded we approve the joint resolution approving the change order number 11. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. It is approved. David, would you comment on this? These are all items that are in, these change orders are all in the original budget, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is not any of the excess money, which is
That's
different
correct.
than the next item.
That's correct.
Okay. Would you take us to item 6 then?
Item 6 is recommend joint resolution approving change order number 12, MAPS 3 Scissortail Upper Park, increase of $377,661.23, and authorizing use of excess Oklahoma City capital improvement sales tax funds to fund change order number 12, project M3-P006/WC-0920. So let's talk about how we got to where we are. In about March, April, I was asked, when will we finish with the park? We had a schedule, and we came up with the September date, knowing that it met the schedule, it gave us plenty of time, everything was good. So then people started moving, doing what was necessary to do this grand opening that we have, and getting on a band's calendar, making deposits, doing all the things that, I mean, this grand opening is going to be spectacular. What we didn't know is it was going to rain so much. So we lost pretty much all of May, we lost half of April, and we lost about half of June, because when it rains, it might be 3 days before it dries up to where they can work. And it was an absolute quagmire in the park, so that put us behind schedule. And in order to keep this date that was set a long time ago, because all of the plans have been made and the band booked and all these things, we need to do some acceleration of the schedule. And we met extensively with the contractor and worked with them on ideas of how we could do this. We talked about tripling shifts, working 24 hours a day, working weekends, adding so many more people, and there's only so many people you can add to a site until they're all just on top of each other. So we've come to this plan here that is before you, and the plan is just for guys to work 12-hour days, double shifts. They'll be working weekends, and they'll be working some nights, and they'll be adding some additional crews. I might also add that the original proposal was about $700,000. And as I said, we worked with the contractor, negotiated that down, figured out other ways that we could do things, and got it down to the number that we have now. I've given you that sheet of paper that shows the budget. So one of the questions that was brought up yesterday at the subcommittee meeting was that the budget still shows $2.9 million. So what I've shown on here is the budgeting of that $2.9 million, because there's a lot of things that we have to hold back that are still ongoing. So what doesn't necessarily show up on that budget is the FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We got $500,000 that's allocated within that 2.9. Then we've got the A&E amendment that you just approved, the change order 11 that you just approved. We anticipate that there's going to be some repairs needed after that massive grand opening, and I've got some money budgeted for that. We've got money reserved still for our ongoing administration and testing. And then we have to come up with part of the reconstruction of Robinson Avenue, because Public Works only has so much, and based on the estimate we have, it's not going to cover it. Plus their budget goes all the way to 15th Street. All that being said, this gives you an idea of where we'd be. So if we took change order 12, which is what we're talking about right now, if we took that out of the remaining budget right now, we would have $237,000 left in our budget. That makes me nervous. I don't like getting that close when we're really close to the end of the project. So that's why I have asked that we get additional money out of the program. I don't know what else to say. I think that covers it.
Questions for David?
Well, just a philosophical question, perhaps, of timing, and that is if I understand your concern of getting too low on the program budget, but because these are all contingencies, shouldn't we just defer getting into excess funds until we actually need them later on? If we do, we do, and we'll get there.
We could. That is one way to approach it. However, if I need $300,000 to finish the park and we only have $237,000, I don't think the contractor would be as inclined to continue on, and we're right here at the end of the project. It just worries me having that amount of money. It works either way. It does.
That we could come in at that time and approve whatever was needed to finish the park out of excess funds, rather than taking them from excess funds now when we still are within our program budget. Again, it's a philosophical thing, is
right.
The timing.
I agree.
Which fund we take the money from, which pie we cut the slice out of right now. So I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I'm just raising the point for discussion.
Right.
And I think that was basically the question I raised, because I looked at the park budget, and there was almost $3 million apparently in there, and I asked David yesterday, I said, why are we doing this from excess funds? And he walked me through some of this stuff. And, you guys know I've been kind of protective of the excess funds, and we've kind of gone through a process of identifying where we thought the funds ought to go, and we kind of set some ideas for those things. And so this is not something that was on there. This is
That's correct.
Above and beyond the other things we've identified. So we just need to be aware that if we decide to do this out of the excess funds, it will impact something else on that list.
Potentially, but we are accruing interest as we go along.
Yeah. So I had kind of the same thought that was expressed there, that, we have the money in the budget, why don't we just go ahead and use it? And if we do need it, I certainly want to make sure we get the park open on time. That's not the issue. It's just kind of, why are we funding it? Why are we proposing to fund it this way?
We spoke about this yesterday at our subcommittee meeting, and this does come to you with a recommendation unanimously of all the members that were present at our quorum. And one of the things that I remind everybody, too, is that this is a timing process. From the time something gets on the agenda at a subcommittee to approve, and then gets to this board to approve, and then moves to city council to approve, there can be a gap in time. So if we take the pot really low and take these excess, or this $377,000 out of the current budget, we could potentially get to the point, if any of these projected numbers are higher, that we don't have the money when we need it because of the time it's going to take to get to the processes for any further excess collections to also be approved. So if we approve that now, we're putting ourselves in a very safe net. And I'm not saying I don't have confidence in these numbers, but they're just projections. I mean, just the way that we projected we were going to collect $777 million in sales tax. We did great on our projection because we did more, but that doesn't necessarily mean we could have hit that number. So I say it's prudent to do this now so that we don't end up in a position where all of a sudden we have to stop on the park. We have to stop doing some testing. Maybe there was more collateral damage to the park during our spectacular opening weekend than we anticipated. What if there's more rain again then? I mean, it just can jeopardize so many things. And we're not talking about a fixed structure. It's not a building that's going to get wet. It's grass. It's flowers around it. It's all of the landscaping. It's things that's living and have to be acted on immediately. So to me, that's what makes this a sensible decision to use that money now, so that if other things arise where we immediately need that on hand, we have it.
Sue?
Just a couple comments. First of all, I'm glad that we're vetting this a little bit. This is important. It's a decision that we are making that maybe, as you said, Bob, we haven't discussed before. So as chairman of the Trails and Sidewalk Committee, I know that this sounds like, well, now for sure, this committee with future funds is probably being chopped. because we're one of those what ifs. Could we do some more sidewalk? Could we do some more trails? So I know that we've always been kind of iffy on the next step for those two items anyway. And the same thing with this, maybe another senior wellness center. So we're also kind of at a crosswalk here with our advisory board and our committees. And we're all having discussions in our committee meetings about what next and what can we do with funds that we might have left over or that we might get from the excess funds. So I just want to remind everyone that as we come to a close on things, our voice isn't gone. So I still intend to be a voice to my councilpersons, and continue to talk about trails and sidewalks. I hope they never go away. I hope every maps or every project as we go forward has trails and sidewalks, because we're just breaking the ground on that. But I realize how important this is, and I also am very proud of the fact of we're doing things right with our projects, and we're making sure that what we've got is the best that we can give given our budget. So we've done that with the senior wellness centers. We've done it with the fairgrounds. And we've given excess to those things. And I'm glad we have, because we have one chance with what we're doing right here. So I move approval.
Dee?
I think that this opening of the park, every eye in Oklahoma City, in the whole state's going to be looking at it, has to be good. And I totally agree that if they need some more money and we don't have it in excess now, it's going to be it's going to be a whole thing of trying to get it, and it's time involved. I also think that it's important to know what happens if the money isn't used. Does that get put back into the general fund? David, do you know?
We certainly could do that. I mean,
I don't think there's any issue with that. I think the issue is just making sure that when we get to the finish line, we've got enough breath, and we can do it along the way. As Dee said, the whole world is going to be looking at this park because of who we have as our architect, planner, designer, and Hargraves. I mean, they are a world-class builder, and this needs to be a world-class park. And no matter what events we have coming in the park, there's always going to be collateral damage. That's just the way parks are. They're living, they're breathing, they're evolving. But because this is so new, we don't know what could happen. This is our first event. We don't know if 40,000 people will show up or 60,000 people will show up. It's an unknown. So I would rather see this as a small life insurance policy to know that we can move forward and keep this going. And if there's excess in collections, or excess in our budget, I don't see any reason at the end why that could not be returned to the open budget of excess collections, which totals, I believe, about $30 million right now.
Bob? Just a follow-up to that. I certainly understand the timing issue, and the process does take some time, and we might get hooked on that if we weren't prepared for it. And to respond to you and Dee, I don't think there's any dispute in this group about the need to have the funding there for the overtime that we're looking at and for the post-opening repair work that needs to be done. Who knows if these estimates are accurate or not. It is speculative for sure. To me, the sole question is which pot do we pull the money from? And I do have some concern that if we pull it from excess funds now, so he's right, somebody's going to get hit later on, and I worry that if we use excess funds now and the park winds up with a little bit left in the budget, it may be difficult to pull that money back out of the park and put it back into the excess fund. We're all going to be fighting for it. I have no doubt Kim is going to be suggesting some things that the park could use that money for. And I don't know how that discussion, that battle would turn out. But Kim then gets a bit of an unfair advantage, having already dipped into the excess funds for this purpose, than to say, well, I still need some money. Let's keep that money in there rather than putting it back into a general excess fund pot to be divided up. And that to me is a very legitimate, I expect you to be an advocate for the park and try to keep that money there. So I don't know what would happen later on with regard to moving those funds back into excess to be divvied up where appropriate among all of the projects.
Just for mental accounting, we have in that plan $10 million allocated towards park infrastructure. You could mentally take it out of that.
But that's not really what's suggested either, so I guess I agree with Bob, and just from a philosophical standpoint, I certainly want to allocate the money. The question is only where it comes from, and so I would like to offer an amendment that we take this money out of the park budget rather than out of the excess funds.
Could I ask a question on that
Sure.
before we even get to a second? Is there any way that we could, consistent with the city's bylaws, rules, regulations, whatever, that we could sort of pre-approve use of those funds if it became necessary? If we start exceeding the numbers that we have here, we've already got a resolution.
No, we have to do a specific change order.
Well, there's items on this list that aren't going to come up for a while, and so we'll certainly have the time. $500,000 on the
Well, we're
Robinson
currently working on FF&E with city contracts.
But you're going to come back with those proposals anyway, and so at that point in time, if we're going to exceed the money that's left, we'll certainly be able to.
What we do as far as the FF&E, we bring them back as informational items because they're not construction projects, they're
I was talking about the Robinson
contracts.
Avenue reconstructions.
The what?
The Robinson Avenue reconstruction.
Yes.
That'll be something that'll come to us, and if whatever that number might be and how it affects this overall budget, we'll
Right.
certainly be able to deal with then. So that's not something that's going to prevent us from doing what we need to do on the other stuff currently.
Just a couple of I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim. I was just going to say, I share the concerns that everybody has about us continuing to dole out excess money. There are a couple of reasons I want us that I'm going to vote to approve this, and I'll mention those. A couple. One is the amount of money. This is $300 and some odd thousand, which is critical to what we're doing, and yet insignificant in terms of a $140 million project. And we have a lot of time to make the arguments over the excess money, including the interest that's accruing that Mike and David have alluded to. So this is really, in terms of changing our process, is probably not going to do that. I mean, this is not going to build another trail or another wellness center. So yet it's critical that we know now. And I want to mention one other thing that maybe Katie's going to tell us about later, and that is there has been, outside our purview, but the mayor and city fathers have been very active in asking and getting a lot of private money to make this the spectacular event that it's going to be, which will not be using MAPS 3 money to do some of the most spectacular things. The mayor has also expressed the view to me that he is viewing this more as a celebration of MAPS 3 rather than a celebration of the dedication of the park. So it really takes on, to my way of thinking, a little broader aspect than just would we like to put $300,000 in the park. And so I know that I many times argued, let's not give away that excess money ahead of time. And if this were $3 million, I'd vote no. But it's not. It's $300,000. And I think that it will not necessarily impact. What it does do from my viewpoint is it gets us to a decision to make these decisions in the coming 30, 40 days, whereas an argument over the total distribution of the excess money is going to be something that'll take us months. And so if we postpone this and put it in that argument, that's going to be something that we're all going to be advocating for different things, I think, over a period of time. And this is something that needs to be, I think, decided now, if we can agree on it. Mike, you wanted to add?
Well, it may die for a lack of a second, but I'm offering.
I'll second his motion.
Yeah, let me ask Amanda, but I believe I heard Sue make a motion that we approve this. I did not hear a second to that. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution as presented, and now Mike has made an amendment, and it has now been seconded. Now, what's next, Amanda? Aren't we glad you're here?
I apologize, I came in a little bit late. What was the amendment that was made?
That we take the money out of the parks budget rather than the excess funds.
Okay, so whoever made the original amendment would need to withdraw the original motion would need to withdraw their motion, and then you'd vote on the amendment.
Well, but if they choose not to withdraw their motion,
then you have to vote on the
motion
first motion.
We have to vote on the first motion. If it passes, then we would consider the amendment?
The amendment would be unnecessary because the original motion passed.
Okay, so, Sue, do you want to withdraw your motion? You want to? All right, then.
I hate to be recorded as a no vote because I am in favor of spending the money. So I think this puts us in a kind of difficult position because it's not a question of spending the money, it's just a question of where it gets funded.
Yeah, I think we're all clear on that. So, okay, are we clear now? We're going to vote on what is presented in your packet, the recommended joint resolution approving the change order and spending the money, taking the money out of excess funds in the amount shown of $377,000. Everybody clear on that? All right.
I will abstain.
All right. Please note that Michael Adams has abstained, and I'm going to call for a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
I'm going to vote no, but not as to the spending the money, but its source.
All right. One abstention, one no. The chair says the motion's passed. We're ready to move to the next item. Item 7, is it, David, is the discussion on MAP 3 Scissortail Park grand opening.
Yes, sir. As we mentioned, we are going to have a great grand opening for the park, and it's coming up much sooner than most of us realize. Katie Gustafson with the Gooden Group is here today to give you kind of a general overview of what's going to take place. I'd like to turn it over to Katie.
Katie, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have been planning, a large planning committee has been meeting for almost a year, monthly. Now we've been meeting every other week, and I'm sure we'll be meeting weekly going forward as we're getting closer to the event. A free Kings of Leon concert will be the highlight of the 3-day celebration, starting September 27th, which is a Friday night, and then going on through the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. On Friday, the park will have a temporary perimeter fence surrounding the park with maybe a dozen entry points that will be staffed so people can come in and enjoy the concert. There'll be no ticket needed to come in and enjoy the concert. We want this to be as accessible and enjoyable as possible for everybody, despite their ability to get a ticket or to register online. And at 6 o'clock, gates will open at 5 p.m. At 6 o'clock, we'll have a ribbon cutting ceremony with Mayor Holt, followed by a couple of supporting acts, and then ending with the Kings of Leon concert and hopefully some fireworks and a big celebration after that. Food trucks will be available, and we expect that to be a very big night. The following morning, the perimeter fence will be removed and the park will be open for Saturday will be geared more towards family activities. We're planning fitness activities early in the morning, some yoga, some Zumba, and then boat rentals, food trucks, a kids play zone in the kids children area, live art demonstrations throughout the park, roving entertainers, live local music concerts, and ending the night with a premier Starry Night concert that's yet to be announced. On Sunday, activities will begin at 11 a.m., including more boat rentals, more roving entertainers, food trucks. We've secured great partnerships with the Oklahoma City Energy and Oklahoma City Dodgers, who are putting together a game zone that will be really fun. More live art demonstrations, and then a closing ceremony on the Love's Travel Stops stage in Great Lawn on Sunday evening. We're really looking forward to this event. We're already starting to communicate with folks that have indicated they're interested in coming to the concert, answering those questions. Lots of questions so far about ticketing and what can I bring in, what can I not bring in, about parking. And so we're managing all of those questions, and everybody's been really excited. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I guess the one question I'd have is, what do we estimate the crowd to be the first night?
We're planning for tens of thousands, and we don't know. We're having those conversations with fire marshals about capacity, and so that's part of the reason that the perimeter fence is going to be in place and staffed, but we're planning for tens of thousands, but we don't have a good estimate at this point.
And my next question was going to be, as far as fire, police, and parks, are they attending your committee meetings?
Absolutely, yes. The Scissortail Park Foundation is leading those committee meetings. We have representation from fire, police, fire marshals, emergency management. Everybody is very heavily involved in those conversations.
Thank you.
Katie, did you say that there's going to be a ribbon cutting ceremony at 6 o'clock?
At 6 p.m. Friday.
For the concert?
That's right.
Now, I'd seen on the program something about a luncheon for people who'd been working on this. Is that on the schedule yet?
Yes, so we're planning on having some park stakeholders into the park early for a picnic on that Thursday, just to make sure everybody who's been deeply involved in the process kind of gets a preview look at the park and is honored, and we'll have a toast or something for the park and a picnic setting that Thursday. So we'll be sending out invitations for that soon.
Did you say there were tickets or not? How is that going to work?
For the concert, there's no tickets. So we are asking for people who are interested in attending the concert and the grand opening activities to RSVP on Facebook, to RSVP on Eventbrite, but that is only so that we can continue to communicate important updates about the event. When you show up to the concert, you will not need to present a ticket or show something on your phone. You'll just be allowed in.
I was going to ask if there was another tour or sneak peek opportunity for the board and the committee members, and I guess that's what you're saying this Thursday activity would be, for us to get into the park early and look around and see what.
Yeah, definitely Thursday, and I'll let David speak to any other tours in advance.
No, we're not planning on doing any tours. We've got so many people working down there. It looks like ants down there right now.
But I think it'd be nice if we had an opportunity to get in and sneak peek before the crowd.
And
maybe that's
that'll be that.
Thursday,
Yes, sir.
Thursday activity or Thursday.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think probably the biggest question for the public is just, what can I bring in?
Yes.
So I know you're doing a good job of communicating that. I've seen it. But.
Yeah, and right now what we know for sure is that we're not going to allow outside food or beverage. We will have food trucks and vendors selling food and beverage inside the park, but we've also communicated that we're discouraging bringing no lawn chairs and kind of discouraging bringing picnic blankets, only because we expect this to be a standing room only concert, and we don't think it would be an optimal experience to sit on a picnic blanket because it would inhibit your sight lines to the concert. And then we just don't want anybody tripping over lawn chairs or anything like that. So we're trying to manage expectations that people will be standing for the concert.
So follow-up question on that. Will there be security, like search and first kind of thing, or a backpack, no backpacks?
I don't know. Yeah.
All of that kind of thing is certainly what the public would want to know.
Absolutely, yes. Every entry will be staffed with security. I'm sure there will be some sort of searching of, making sure that no prohibited items will be entering the park. We also will have, ADA accessible entries, of course, and then working on an area of the concert that's optimal viewing for folks in wheelchairs, and then sign language interpretation as well.
I've spoken with Chief Gorley about this, and one thing that he emphasized was security will be similar to the Memorial Marathon, and they are working really hard on preparing for this event.
Katie, we have fireworks planned, don't we?
Yes, fireworks.
And there's also going to be a 10-page insert into the Daily Oklahoman talking about the park and the festivities for general public as well.
Yes, we're regularly meeting about marketing the opening and communications and earned media strategy as well. And so those conversations are ongoing. So I think probably starting in August, it's going to be all park all the time, hopefully, and educating folks about the opening. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Katie, while you're here, I want to tell you thank you publicly for the great job you've done from the beginning of this project. And it really gives us all a lot of confidence to know you're in there helping with the planning of this. You've done a great job for us for many years now, and I just want to say thank you. All right, that brings us into item 8, David.
Item 8 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 8, Maps 3 Sidewalks Phase 4 Project 1 improvements, a decrease of $128,610.49, accepting the project and placing the maintenance bond into effect, project M3-W004. So this is one phase, or one project of Phase 4 on the sidewalks. Summer Goebel is here from Guernsey to give you a quick presentation on showing you how the project wrapped up. So I'd like to invite her up.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here today and to explain to you just some of the things that we faced building the sidewalks or designing the sidewalks. So I have with me here today also Carl Stickley, who is was the senior engineer, civil engineer on this project. So I want to go through this real briefly, just give you a tour of the project, the finished project, give you some gee-whiz facts, and then answer any questions that you might have. So there were 4 sections that we designed and were constructed recently. There are sections 29, 45, 50, and 64. There was a total miles of sidewalk were 6.41, and the total construction cost was a little bit over $2 million. The first section I want to briefly talk about is section number 29, and that was Southwest 89th from Western to Santa Fe. The sidewalk was built on the north side of the road. This picture here is a great demonstration of some of the things we had to consider as far as the design. You'll see that this is a bus stop, and to the right and to the upper right of the picture, you may not be able to discern that it's a playground associated either with a church or with a school. And because we had to, we didn't have enough right-of-way to maybe make a gradient down to the sidewalk, we put in the retaining walls, as you can see. Another good, that's just an example of where we decided to put in retaining walls to help with the grade at this site. This is a overview, a plan view of the road, as well as different highlights of the sidewalk. This particular section, this particular section 29, there are several drainage channel crossings. There's minimal to moderate slopes that we had to deal with as far as driveways into commercial properties. We had 2 temporary easements and 1 right-of-way acquisition. On section 45, which was Southwest 59th, on the north, the sidewalk was built on the north side. This was from I-44 to Shields. This was almost 4 miles of sidewalk. And this was the most challenging one to design and construct, just because this is a highly commercialized section of South Oklahoma City. So there were a lot of considerations we had to make for existing signs, existing utilities, lack of easement in some areas, several driveways that had to be rebuilt to help with the slope issues or the grading issues. So again, it was almost 4 miles of sidewalk. One interesting point was on Blackwelder Avenue. We don't necessarily have the best picture to demonstrate this, but the actual intersection there had stormwater drains, so we had to move the the pedestrian crossing probably about 20 feet or so away from the intersection so that we could accommodate the stormwater drains there at the intersection. Moving on to section number 50, this was a little easier to design because it's not as populated with commercial businesses, mainly as it's residential, not very developed. This was Southwest 134th to 119th Street. It was almost a mile of sidewalks. Again, this was relatively easy in design. There was not a lot of interferences as far as utilities and or commercial driveways that we had to consider. There are a couple of pictures where you see that we did have to move the sidewalk maybe closer to the road than what we would want to, just basically to get to avoid utilities, existing utilities. And last but not least, section number 64, again, it was almost a mile of sidewalks. It was from Southwest 89th to 104th. It was on the west side of the road. Again, this is a residential area, but the nice thing is that the subdivisions had barriers to them, so there was not a lot of residential driveways coming on to the main road, so there was not a lot of conflicts there. With that, just some GWIS statistics. There was 6,500 feet of sidewalk curb, 10 pedestrian signals and push buttons, 13,000 square yards of sidewalk, 361 ADA curb ramps, and 3 bus stop concrete pads. I think with that, wanted to talk about our design team. Of course, it was Guernsey and Lemke. We had a great construction team that included MTZ. They have been involved in a lot of sidewalk construction, so they were a great partner in that. And then also TLS, pedestrian signals. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll let Carl answer them.
I had one question on alignment 50 and alignment 64. Why is there the gap between 104th and 134th Street, if you know?
That really comes from the plan that we put together, and it ranked all the different sidewalks. And I don't know if there's already sidewalks there,
sure,
or if it's because there's more schools and neighborhoods in the places that we did it, and there wasn't as much development in that space.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for you. As we begin to think about excess money and more sidewalks, I guess we could do the math, but I'm hoping you've done it. You've told us that you built 6.4 miles and it cost 2-point-something million. How does the cost, facing all the challenges that you've outlined for different things that you had to face, how does that compare to what you thought the cost per mile would be to build sidewalks when we started, and what should we be thinking about if we were to decide to build more sidewalks? Was our estimate too low, too high, or just right?
If you don't mind, I'd like to defer to Carl to answer that question.
It's a little more expensive than we thought. That's why we put that graphic on there about the number of sidewalk curbs that were required. Because of the
that point.
Yeah, because of the limitations of right-of-way, we had that over a mile worth of area in which we had to put a curb on the side of the sidewalk because of the limitations on right-of-way. So I would say that in this particular case, it was a little more expensive than what we thought. I think this is a good barometer of what it would cost going forward, because we're going to have those same issues in other areas. Obviously, a lot of it matters as to whether or not in some of the newer development areas, the city has gone ahead and gotten 50 foot of right-of-way on each side of the section line road. We were faced with a number of areas that only had 33 feet. Well, you put a 4-lane street in there and a sidewalk and the parking lots that come right up to the 33 feet, that remains a challenge. When we bring you bid package number 2, which is under construction right now, you will see some very dramatic things that we had to do to get this fit into the right-of-way. So I would say our costs are about right. I will mention in bid package 2, we did have 2 alternates. we were able to award now because of the funding situation. Those alternates will allow us to build 2 additional miles that had planned to be in there, but they were very tricky miles because of the right-of-way. And so that's coming. That's why that bid package has not been brought forward to you, because those are under construction right now.
For those of us who understand it less than you do, is there a number per mile? I mean, is it $6,000 a mile to build sidewalks, or is it $60,000, or what is it?
Well, the cost that we came up with on this particular project, where we had the 6.41 miles, oops, I'm going backwards, and I'm sorry, the 6.41 miles and the $2,100,000, that's a pretty fair representation. I would say that's a pretty average representation of the cost that we're going to see on these sidewalks.
But you're not going to tell me what that number is.
Well, I'm going to have to do the math in my head, and I'll get it wrong.
We've been seeing, depending on how many drainage structures and the retaining walls and stuff that Carl's talking about, we've been seeing anywhere between $250,000 and $300,000 a mile.
That's all I needed.
But this came up higher. So that's the only point I want to make, is that this one came up a little bit on the high end because of some of the challenges that we had.
But for planning going forward, I was just interested in a range. Because I'm sure that Sue's going to tell us she wants to build more sidewalks. She's already told us.
This is $328,000 per mile. So it's a little bit on the higher range of what we originally estimated.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question? Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It's approved. That brings us then to item number 9, is it, David? New business?
Yes, sir. We don't have any new business.
Anyone on the advisory board have new business? All right, then. Let's go to item 10. Any subcommittee reports that we haven't already covered? Zane?
I don't have a report, but I did have a question for David. We have the park opening in September, around the 27th of that weekend. Didn't you say that the Draper Lake Park was going to open in this fall too? Is that going to be about the same time, or are you expecting that to be a little bit later because of the weather?
It'll actually be a little sooner. It'll be a little sooner than that. We'd hoped to get that open at the end of August, and because of the weather, again, has put us behind. So it'll be a couple of weeks before this opens, as of right now.
September is turning out to look very active.
Yeah, it's a big month for us.
I crashed through the barriers out at Draper Park a couple of weeks ago and rode around. It looks great. Although there were places that had a lot of work yet to be done, so it'll be interesting to see what it is.
So Russell told us that he had to go out there yesterday and put the barriers back up. So you're the culprit.
Yeah, I think we had the opening scheduled for August the 17th, and I think Christie sent out a notice that that's been canceled, and they're looking at a September date. Is that it?
Yes,
David?
sir.
All right.
I just had one comment, too, if I may. I know we've talked a whole lot about the upper park, and I couldn't be any more excited that it's really actually happening and it's reality. But I wanted to make sure everybody realizes we're still working on design for the lower park, so parks will be an ongoing discussion, and we look forward in the next month or two to see current plans.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. That brings us then to item number 11. David, any additional comments about the program?
Just like to point out the convention center is coming along well. If you go down there, you can see that the glass is in the front of the building. Pretty much all of the steel is up. They have what they call a topping out ceremony at the end of this month. At the end of August. But that project is coming along great. There's 300 people working down there every day. So, like I said, the glass is in. It's really starting to take shape. We've talked about pretty much everything else. So that's really all I have to add.
David, one of the things I get asked often that maybe you could comment on is I know that the plan has been for us to have the convention center hotel and the parking garage and the convention center all finished in a general sense on about the same track, so that when they'd all get finished, hopefully near the same time. How's that going?
It's going well. You see that the hotel is It's making great progress, and the bids were taken yesterday for the parking garage. So the convention center should finish in September of next year, and then right after the first of the year, I believe, is when the hotel will open, and garage will be done right about the same time as the convention center opens. So it's going well.
That's great news. Okay, that brings us to item 12. Any members of the board have items they want to discuss today? Kim.
I just want to say how proud I am of this entire group, that after going on nearly 11 years, we still have the same tenacity, strength, and passion as we walked in here day one. I think we're a little bit wiser than we were a long time ago, a little bit, yeah. But I love that we can agree to disagree, and we can agree to agree, and that we're all amazing stewards of every penny that every citizen has paid. And I'm really proud of that.
All right. Staff?
Yes, that's okay. No,
Yes, sir.
I just want to remind everybody that the third meeting, mayor's meeting as to MAPS 4 is Wednesday, July 31st. It's to look at potential projects for MAPS 4. I love the transparency. I am getting hundreds and hundreds of emails where people are watching this, and I want to remind everybody that you can watch it on okc.gov, and you can also see it on YouTube. This is our third meeting. Our last meeting will be Tuesday, August 6th. And to echo comments, I want to commend the board for the healthy discussion about change order number 12. I thought it was very productive. It was helpful to me. And I think that's another sign of transparency, and I think that's what makes MAPS so great. Thank you.
Others? All right, then. This is also the opportunity, if there are citizens here that would like to be heard, you could step forward. Any citizens? Seeing none, that brings us to item 13. Michael Adams, you wanted to move that we adjourn? I did. And Bob, you wanted to second it, did you not? So it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned.